So the sermon today is fix your eyes on Jesus. Right? And so the text for this message is in Hebrews chapter 12. And so if you want to follow along in Hebrews chapter 12, in previous messages here I have shared, and you guys are going to start to think that I'm a fatalist type of person. But one thing that I've continually said is things are changing. This world is changing. This is not the same world when some of you or me grew up. When I grew up, I could go anywhere, get on my bike, go back way up in the hills, but be home by dark kind of thing. And I suppose some of you remember that too. You could just be gone. It was safe. But in today's day and age, I will not let my kids go somewhere. This is not the same world we grew up in. And sometimes I think we as Christians, we're kind of like that story you guys have heard, I'm sure, where you put a frog in a frying pan that's hot, he jumps out, right? Okay, now put the frog in a frying pan with water that's cool. You put him in there and he doesn't realize it, he doesn't jump out. And so what you can do is slowly turn up the heat. And now you're nodding, you've heard that illustration. You just slowly increase that heat to where the frog isn't aware that the water's getting hot. Now all of a sudden it's too late, he can't jump out anymore. He's succumbed to the heat of that. Now in some ways I think that is probably a good way to describe what is going on here in this world. This is not the same place where you and I grew up. It just is not. Now, I could go on to many illustrations and stuff, but there's no real reason to. You know, there's this different stuff. We talk about people today who have a woke mindset, right? You know, and what woke is you notice all the discriminations and prejudices and so on and so forth, and it becomes an attitude. You walk around with an attitude. Now, there are groups in America and in the world who have been severely discriminated against, treated horribly. So I'm not going to minimize that. There's some bad stuff that's gone on just because of your skin color or something, you know. But you have this work mindset, and what's happening is you have a change of people's attitudes and feelings. Now, this is, how would I describe it, my way is right and your way is wrong. Not only is my way right and your way is wrong, I'm not going to accept it if you disagree with me. You know what I mean? That's pretty dangerous. I mean, that, you think, no, that's really dangerous. You talk about Christians experiencing persecution. It's from that type of mindset. Bible says you're a sinner and you need to repent. Boom! And next thing you know, you're being persecuted, or a time, as you get closer to that time when Jesus comes back, your head gets cut off. Okay? We see society moving in that direction. But I think a lot of Christians are like that frog in that pan, we're not noticing it. And so, in recent years and stuff, I've been learning things are changing. They are changing, guys. Be careful here. Now, to give you another illustration, I read stuff online. You know, I'll have a story come up on my feed, and you guys do the same thing, Facebook or on the internet, Yahoo, Google, whatever, on your phone, and you'll have these articles come up. Now, one of the things I like to do is look at the comments. Sometimes the comments are hilarious. People are really, really, really funny. You read some of the comments and just gotta sit there and laugh. But another thing I'm noticing when I read these comments is that shift of attitude. And so we'll say, well, okay, society's changing. Well, no, no. What I see when I see that is that noose is getting tighter around my neck, and yours too. All right? There's going to be a time where you and I need to be strong. There's going to be a day when it's going to be dangerous for you to say, "Thus says the Lord." Now in the Bible, Jesus says, "Let your light shine before men." Right? Now I'm going to be very, very honest here. All right? Now, as a pastor preaching from the pulpit, I can determine how bright that light's going to shine. Does that make sense? So you have dimmer switch at home, your dining room, you sit there and you can dim the lights and stuff. You can do that when you preach a sermon. Absolutely. And so you can dim that, and then you end up still looking like you did your job. But understood before God, you have not, because you turned the dim down. Your light is dim. Jesus says, "Let your light shine before men." I mean, turn it all the way up. Now, one of the things I like to do when I study is I like to look at the Greek calcs and stuff. Now, I'm not a Greek scholar. Pastor Jeff can look at the Greek language and say this is this, and okay, now this ending or this beginning changes the meaning in this way. Well, I can't do that. But I can sit there and I can read the Greek calcs and stuff. Now, what does that do? For me, for my mind, it actually makes it a lot clearer. It makes the light a little brighter. And so from the pulpit, I try to turn that light, turn that dimmer all the way to as bright as setting. And so that's what I try to do with God's Word. We need to stand strong. Now, in the book of Hebrews, just to give you a little bit of information here, some books in the Bible kind of don't really apply to us. You know what I mean? Have you ever read a book of the Bible and been like, okay, sometimes Old Testament, right? Book of Numbers. You know, now if you're Jewish and you're part of that, some of that stuff's important. But for us, it is not so much. Now, when you read a book like the book of Hebrews, you can read that and be like, okay, but how did this apply to me? Well, it does. It applies to you when you're that frog in that pan and the heat's turning up, all right? You've got the opportunity to dim your light or make it so bright. Now, when you are faced with that situation where things get difficult, the book of Hebrews becomes a blessing. Does that make sense? Like, it's that encouragement to keep going. All right. Now, if you're not in that type of situation, you might read it and go, okay, well, I learned a little bit about Jesus from this. Okay, he's the high priest, he's this, he's that. You get facts from it. But when you start to pay the price for your Christianity, which is going to happen in the near future, this book of Hebrews might become that blessing. It's going to become that help. Alright, so far so good. Okay, now, in the book of Hebrews, we had Hebrew Christians, or there were Hebrew Christians who were suffering. And the Bible says that their lands were taken away. They were losing stuff. Think about where you live. Because you became a Christian, it's gone. government comes, kicks you out, puts a note on the door, says you're out. You got 7 days to get your stuff out of here. Okay, that's the kind of stuff that was happening to the Jewish believers, the ones that the writer of Hebrews writes to. These kinds of things were happening to them, but they embraced that stuff with joy. Now, it was difficult for them. Life was very, very, very hard. Why? Now, let's just think for a minute. It was a really weird situation for the Jewish Christians. Why? Because they grew up in Judaism, right? They grew up in that. Their grandfathers and their great-grandfathers and everybody all the way to Moses had the law. All of a sudden, they jumped ship and joined a cult. Alright? Now, what's happening? All of the Judaizers, if you would, were hating the Christians that joined the cult. Right? So they're facing all of these difficulties. And the problem is, it became so hard that these born again Jews were thinking, let me go back. It isn't worth it. Why am I going through this? Why am I suffering like this? I'm just going to go back. So the writer of Hebrews is like, no, you keep going. And so he just goes through the book with all kinds of encouragement. Jesus is much better than all this other stuff. You know, don't throw away your confidence, right? All right, now, I think in the coming days, it's going to get tough for us. It's going to get really, really hard. Now, if you can be faithful to the Lord, and turn up that dimmer switch all the way to its brightest setting, you're going to have a hard time. Now, if we look at Hebrews chapter 12, there are encouragements to us to keep running this. Now, just for your information, the first 3 verses in Hebrews 12, first couple verses, he gives a picture. Now, you guys are all familiar with the Greek games, okay? During, back in Roman times, they had the Greek games, the Olympics. And we have something today, it's kind of like that, it's borrowing from that, right? So now, in Hebrews 12, there's a picture where the writer of Hebrews says, okay, you and I are runners in a stadium. We have a race to run, we're gonna run, and we are surrounded by all of these spectators watching this. You can imagine a stadium with all these spectators watching us. That's the picture and the image given here in Hebrews 12. So let's go ahead and look at that. Let's go ahead and look at verse 1. Now verse 1, he says, therefore, since we have such a great cloud of witnesses surrounding us. Okay, now, so he says here, there is a great cloud of witnesses surrounding us. Okay, so now, in that day and age, they would use that phrase, like a cloud, to talk about a really big group. So, almost like you have a stadium and it's hot. You have a cloud of spectators, okay? So you come to a football game, the stadium's got 50,000 people in it. There's a cloud of people in that. And that's the idea here. Now, the question becomes, who are these cloud of witnesses? All right, now, what most people would think maybe is, okay, now my grandfather was a believer, my grandma was, my mom accepted the Lord, and so on and so forth. Are they're dead now, are they in heaven watching my race. And that's how some people see this, and that's not actually what's being said here. I don't believe that anybody who is in heaven is even paying attention to what's going on here, right? So why? They're in a much better place. Why are they looking back to this place? Seriously. You know, in Isaiah 65, verse 17, it says um, that in eternity, all the things of this life won't even be remembered. It won't even come to mind. Now, I understand that verse to mean, so that's in Isaiah 65, verse 17. So I take that to mean, basically, we get up there to heaven, we'll remember earth. Now, I have a horrible memory, so I probably wouldn't remember this, but today, we'll look back. I remember you were here. Now, I wouldn't remember because I got the horriblest memory. But I think we would have that ability to remember the things now. But we're not gonna. Why would we? Picture living in the slums in a cardboard shanty town. And now you're living in the most fancy mansion, palace, whatever you want to call it, that's got streets of gold. It's got beings you never even imagined. Angels, you got all these things going on. Why are you going to look back to Shantytown, right? Now, I think that the people in heaven that have gone ahead of us aren't looking. I don't think my mom's watching and saying, Brad, go! I'm so proud of you! My grandma's not up there saying, oh, Bradley! You know, those of you who had dear family members, you know what I mean, and that relationship. So, I don't think that's happening. Now, what is the witnesses in this passage? Where we have a great cloud of witnesses. The cloud is just like there's a huge group of them. What is it? Talking about the people in Hebrews chapter 11. Alright? Now, if you read Hebrews 11, you just bang, 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 bang. Many different individuals in Hebrews 11 who ran their race. They are in what we call the Hall of Faith. Hebrews 11 is called the Hall of Faith. You want to talk about these big giants that have gotten it done. Alright, so imagine walking down this hall and you see all these paintings on the wall. Abel, Abraham, Noah, Moses, okay, so on and so forth. So now here's these examples of these individuals that ran their race. They were men that were faithful specifically. Now, in this Hall of Faith in Hebrews 11, there are a couple individuals I want to point out. Enoch. You remember last week we talked about Enoch? So Enoch walked with God. And so Bible says that God took him. And so what was that? There was a testimony that he pleased God. Okay? He pleased God so much, God took him. Alright? Now, at my house, we have 3 cats. Alright? I have one cat that's my favorite. Oh, that's the one I'm taking. Okay, just picture that if you're a cat lover. If you're a dog lover, think of it in dog terms. But he pleased God so much that God took him. Now, if you remember last week, I mentioned that it's a two-way intimacy that God wants. It's not just me on my knees going to heaven and saying, God, God, God. I don't know if he's watching or listening or whatever. No, there's a desired two-way intimacy. And in that way, as I'm here, I'm on my knees saying, God, and God's coming down and meet me halfway. Okay? Now, so that's Enoch. And then we have Abraham. Now, the Bible says that God called Abraham to move somewhat. Interesting phrase in that. It says, while being called, he obeyed. It wasn't like, Abraham, move. Okay, well, let me see. Let me talk to my wife. So on. No. While being called, he obeyed. I mean, instantaneous. Abraham's moving. All right? Very interesting. So, not only that, God told Abraham, you're going to have a son. So Abraham's like, he probably thought his wife is going to be pregnant that year. These 9 months, we're going to be holding this son. He waited 25 years. From the time that God promised, they actually had this son. Not only that, they were ancient at that point. They were really old people. Basically impossible to have kids. They had a son. Now, these people, these cloud of witnesses, their lives bear testimony that it is possible to endure in faith. We have dark days coming, but you know what? Other people have done it. You can do it too. Don't give up. All right. So now, in Hebrews 11, verse 35, he says, I'm just going to read this real quick. You don't need to open. It's just, I'm going to mention it and move on. Now just listen to this. Women receive their dead by resurrection. Okay, hey, that's a good thing, right? Okay, next one. Others were tortured. Oh, that's not so good. Alright. They were tortured, not accepting their deliverance that they might obtain a better resurrection. Others were tried by mocking and scourging, and moreover by bonds and imprisonment. People are beaten. They were thrown in the slammer. They were stoned. They were torn apart, cut in two. Well, let's see, who is it? I think it was Isaiah. I think tradition says he was cut apart. So the king was after him. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong. I might be remembering the wrong guy. But he ran to get away. He got into a tree. It was a hollow tree. He climbed in that thing to hide. Well, the king commanded that they cut that tree in half. Cut him right in half. All right. Now, dark days back then. We have dark days coming. All right. Be strong. All right. Now, they were tempted. They were slain by the sword. They went around in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, ill treated, of whom the world was not worthy. Okay, now turn your light up and you will be, that statement will be true of you, of whom the world was not worthy. Alright, so they were wandering in deserts, mountains, caves, and holes of the earth. Alright, now, he says here, getting back to Hebrews 12, getting back to verse 1, since we also have a great cloud of witnesses surrounding us. So again, you have a stadium, you're getting ready to run, and you look all the way around, here's the stadium, okay? All right. Now, it's not our ancestors watching us. It's like, okay, so these guys are bearing witness, you can do this. All right. Now, he says here, let's rid ourselves of every obstacle and sin which does easily entangle us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. So, now, this becomes a command in the way the words are put together, but we are commanded to let us run. Alright? Okay, so here you are in that stadium, the earth, you've got a race to run. Run it. Just because you go bang and start running does not mean you're running. I think there's a lot of Christians that are just standing there, and all these people are running up and they're left back. Run. Run, run, run. God has a race for each and every one of us. There's a race. And it's custom for you, I think. My race is not your race. Your race is not mine. Okay, but we all have a race, and I think that the encouragement is run, 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 run. Do it. So now he says here, um, run with endurance. So the first thing we're told to do here is rid ourselves of every obstacle. Okay, there's two things. The first thing is get rid of that obstacle. Now, here's a little gruesome piece of information, but this word obstacle can be used for like a tumor. Okay, alright, so get rid of that, kind of a gruesome thing, but it could be used for tumor. So now, what we're told to do is get rid of everything that slows us down. Alright? So I got my house full of all kinds of hobbies and all these different things. You know what? Probably slowing me down. That makes sense. So I have all of these things of this life. They're obstacles. They're like these little tumors. Now, these things are not sin, okay? So they don't have to be sin. They're just things that keep us from running, okay? We have a race to run, and it's important that we run it. Turn that light up. Now, let's just think for a minute. The writer of Hebrews are ultimately God, okay? God wrote the book of Hebrews, okay, ultimately. So God does what? He takes a picture of a stadium and all these people that have gone before us, and he's using the picture of a runner. When you run, you get rid of everything that slows you down. Now, I have this goal of taking up running, okay? I guess I'll just say it publicly now. Maybe it'll spur me on to get it done. But one thing I want to do is just start running. Running, yeah. Put some, go down to the bottom of Coal Creek and run down that path or whatever. And for health reasons, and I think it's probably good for me, you know. Okay, now, one thing you don't do is put on heavy boots when you're going to do that. You get rid of everything that slows you down. Alright, and then you start running. In the same way, we as Christians need to get rid of everything that slows us down. Now, there are a couple of examples that I pulled from Scripture. Again, don't open to it. I'm just going to mention it and move on. So, in Luke chapter 8, verse 14, this is the thing with the parable of the four soils. You remember that? So you have a farmer go out, he's sowing seed, and then he's got four different soil conditions and what they resulted in. The third soil is verse 14. It says, that which fell among thorns. Those are those who have heard, and as they go on their way, they are choked with cares, riches, and pleasures of life. Okay, some of these things keep us from running a race. Alright? Now, let's just move on. In Luke chapter 14, verse 26, Jesus said, if anyone comes to me and doesn't disregard his own father, mother, wife, children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, cannot be my disciple. So there's a very serious thing going on here. God calls, he saves us, okay, now start running, be my disciples. But understand, this is what I require. Okay, now they're pretty stern actually. Now, we've only got 10 minutes left, so let's move on here. So he says, we gotta put off those tumors that slow us down. And then he also says, number 2, And also the sin which so easily entangles us. Now, in the Greek, it is the sin. He's talking about a specific one here. He's not saying sin, he's saying the sin. Now, so what is that? Well, the Christians that this writer was writing to were tempted to quit, get away from God, Jesus, just to walk away from this. So, so he says, the sin that, and he says, so easily entangles us. And that's a difficult word to really nail down. I don't have it very specific, but think of something that's hindering your movement. Now I can think of a perfect example. We have a 3-bedroom place, okay? A house is 3 bedrooms, a place. And we got 7 of us, plus 3 cats. Okay, now, sometimes I'm on this side of the house, and I have the goal to get to this side of the house. You know what? With 6 other people in the house and 3 cats, there are a lot of things that hinder my progress in getting to the other side of the house. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So here, okay, I need to get this. I'm working on my sermon. I need to go and get this. Okay. Well, I can't see my way, and then it zooms off. Okay, start moving. One of the kids is on the floor. Step around them. Okay, go to the bedroom door, and there's 2 kids coming out while I'm doing that. Then, okay, well, you know what? As long as I'm here, I'm going to use the bathroom. Well, the bathroom's occupied. There are these things that hinder, okay, these sins. So specifically, there was a specific sin mentioned, but there's many things that can keep us from going. We have, the list goes on, it's an extensive list, but let me just say pride, arrogance, materialism, and so on and so forth. Now, each and every one of us are different. You know, we all got our different things we struggle with, right? All of us do. Now, he says here, get to the main idea, the main command here of these, there's 3 commands right there around there. But he says, let us run. Okay. So we need to run. Get it done. Run your race. Now he said, run it with endurance. Run with endurance the race that is set before us. Alright, now, this word, race, is the original Greek word is the word that we get our word agony. I don't know how you guys feel about running, but I think it's an agony. I'm sitting there running along, and all of a sudden my legs are just heavy. All of a sudden I got a cramp right in here, and they're just hurting. It's an agony. Okay, now we have this romantic notion that a race is this fun thing. We just kind of saunter along, and they have a station there for runners. They can grab a cup and then slow it down, keep running. I'm just, no. It's an agony. It is hard. Now, one thing that I think is true, as you go up higher and higher in the food chain, okay, the Christian life, okay, we're not all the same. Some of us are much higher than others, okay? So we're not just all a bunch of equals here. You run your race, you run, you keep growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. One thing that happens is the higher you get, the harder it gets. It gets really hard. Like, why am I doing this? Okay, so I'm doing this, and I go to my church, and I teach, and I have an individual sitting there and just glaring at me. You guys been mad for the longest time. Like, Now, I'm not going to get into the situation, but the higher you get up, the more you grow, and all of that, it's going to be an agony. It just is. It is. It's just not easy. You dim your light, guess what? It's easy. Crank that heat up, oh, it gets really, really hard. It becomes an agony. So, now this race isn't a sprint, okay? It's one of those where you run, it's a marathon. You run and you run and you run and you run. So out of curiosity, I got on the computer and I asked AI, artificial intelligence, what are examples of long distance running? They can be 100 miles and hundreds of miles. Hundreds of miles going through desert, going up in the mountains and all of that. You run day and night and all of these kinds of things. That is more your age. But now the Hebrew Christians, they're tired. They have been running. They ran all day up the mountains, and they're running and all that. It's nighttime, it's dark, and they're tired. They're just keep going, keep running. Now, I'm just going to add, we are not running against one another. It's my race and it's not yours. You and I are not racing one another. Your race is a different pace. It might be faster, it might be slower, it might be easier, it might be harder, whatever it is. Right? So, now, let's move to verse 2 because I'm down to about 4 minutes. So, looking only at Jesus, the originator and perfecter of the faith. Okay, so you're running. You're in this agony, and so you feel like giving up. You turned your light all the way up. People are hating on you, and you're like, you know what? I think I want to quit. This is not worth it. Like I say, the higher you get up in the Christian life and all, the harder it gets. But you know what? That's where the rewards come in. God's like, I know this is really, really, really hard. You keep running. You keep doing that. And you will have this reward waiting for you. Okay? And so don't get the idea you do absolutely nothing except Jesus and then go to heaven and you got this pile of rewards. It's not how that works. That is an incentive and encouragement for us to work hard and be faithful. So now, we're told here, on this race, look to Jesus, okay? The idea is look away to Jesus. Look away from what? I don't know, your circumstances maybe. This is really, really hard. Life is hard. This is not fun anymore. You know what? I turn my light down just a little, and I can curse from here on out. No. Look away from your situation. Look away to Jesus. Okay, that's the idea. So look away to Jesus. Now, it says here, Jesus was the originator and perfecter of the faith. So Jesus, he was a trailblazer. He went beforehand, and he's the one who brought it to completion. So he ran a race. He started, he ran, and he finished it. And he finished it well, actually. Okay? You think about that. Now, he goes on to say, who for the joy set before him. Okay, joy set before him. Well, think of after he died and went up to heaven. Okay, there's a lot of stuff, that good stuff that came from Jesus dying on the cross and enduring that. Okay, so now he said, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. You know, the cross was a horrible, horrible, horrible way to die. I can think of a lot of much better ways to die. I'm going to chop my head off. I mean, and it's not that I want my head chopped off. I don't have this wish to be martyred. I'm not poking anybody, but if I had a choice, I don't think I'd pick the cross. It's really horrible. And you guys have heard sermons about the suffering on the cross and the agony there. Jesus knew all that stuff. He knew exactly what he was going to go through. And that night before, he's like, if it's possible, Father, remove this cup from me. And he knew what was going to happen. But he went. He did it. He kept going. So now, here's one thing I want to point out. He said he endured the cross, despising the shame. Okay, was there shame involved in crucifixion? Yeah. He was stripped naked, nailed, and just left there to hang. People were probably spitting on him. They were saying horrible stuff to him and all of that. So what's he say here? He said that he despised the shame. Despised the shame. So what did that mean? He basically said, I don't care. Interesting. So here's all this bad stuff going on. He's like, I don't care. Alright, you running that race, you've turned that light all the way up, it's getting bad, and you, just like Jesus, you say, I don't care. You doing that to me? I don't care. I'm suffering this? I don't care. It's gonna happen someday, it's coming. Now, he says, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. So, okay, he went through all of this. He didn't care of all of the shame and all this stuff. I don't care. Now he's where? He finished his race and he's sitting on the right hand of God. Alright? Look to Jesus. Look what he did. Okay, you have these Old Testament saints in chapter 11. All the things he went through. Now look at Jesus. He did it too. Now in verse 3, and 1 minute over, if you guys can give me a couple minutes, okay? I'm almost done. For consider him who had endured such hostility by sinners against himself. Okay. So you're told to look to Jesus in verse 2. Now you're told to consider him. Okay. What is that? Okay, now stop and think about this. Alright, so you're looking. Okay, now stop for a minute and really think on this. What happened to Jesus? Think about it. Use your brain. Think deeply and weigh it thoroughly. So you're going through these troubles. You turn your light up to dim it all the way to its brightest setting, and you're getting it. You look to Jesus and you say, you know, I really think for a minute, all the things he went through, all the suffering, all the hardship, you know, weigh it carefully in your mind. So this is not a quick thought. You're not just real quick, oh yeah, Jesus died on the cross. No. You think about this. Use your brain and carefully think it through what he went through. Right, well, it's going to help you, right? And so that gives you that energy to endure it. Right. So he said, do this, and explains why, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Christians can grow tired and lose heart. You can. It happens. Some of the things that Hannah and I go through in our life, in our ministry and different things, yeah. You know what? It'd be much easier to go flip hamburgers at McDonald's. Probably make more money too, actually. Yeah. However many dollars an hour. Go there, work at McDonald's. And you know what? All those problems are gone. All that hardship. No. Don't even think about that. Put that aside. Look to him. Very carefully think of what he has done and want it. Keep going. To the very last breath. So, no matter what happened to you, what falls on you, your life, say, yep, I'm looking to Jesus. Now you remember who is that individual in Acts chapter 7 that was martyred? Stephen, thank you. Stephen. So Stephen's there. All these witnesses come up and they're getting ready to throw a stone down. They killed him, right? But just before he died, he looked up. He looked up. Okay. So look up. Look up.